What if I told you that one of the greatest writers in American history died alone, penniless, and half forgotten, yet today his words still echo in our nightmares, our mysteries, and our darkest thoughts? This is the story of a man who turned grief into art, fear into beauty, and madness into genius. This is the story of Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe was born on January 19, 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts, into a world that would never quite know what to do with him. His parents were traveling actors, and before Edgar was even 3 years old, his life fractured. His father abandoned the family. His mother, Eliza Poe, died of tuberculosis in 1811, leaving young Edgar orphaned. That early loss, sudden, intimate, and devastating, would become a recurring shadow in his writing, haunting his poems and stories with themes of death, longing, and fragile love. After his mother's death, Edgar was taken in by John and Frances Allan of Richmond, Virginia. Though never formally adopted, he took their name, becoming Edgar Allan Poe. Frances showed him affection, but John Allan was a stern, wealthy merchant who expected obedience and practicality, traits Poe struggled to provide. From the beginning, Poe lived between worlds, loved but not fully accepted, supported but never secure. As a child, Poe showed extraordinary intelligence. He read obsessively, wrote poetry early, and absorbed classical literature. When the Allans moved to England, Poe attended boarding schools where he excelled academically, but also developed a sense of isolation. He returned to the United States as a teenager, already shaped by displacement and emotional distance. In 1826, Poe entered the University of Virginia. Brilliant but reckless, he clashed with John Allan over money. Allan provided too little financial support, and Poe turned to gambling to cover his expenses, a decision that left him deeply in debt. After only 1 year, he was forced to leave. The relationship between Poe and Allan deteriorated beyond repair. Cut off financially and emotionally, Poe left home and turned to poetry. In 1827, he published his first collection, Tamerlane and Other Poems, at his own expense. It sold almost nothing. Undeterred, Poe enlisted in the U.S. Army under a false name and age. Even there, his intellect stood out. He rose to the rank of sergeant major and later secured an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point, thanks briefly to John Allan's support. But Poe never intended to stay. After Frances Allan's death and a final break with her husband, Poe deliberately got himself expelled from West Point in 1831. He returned to writing with absolute commitment and almost no money. The 1830s were years of struggle and slow recognition. Poe worked as an editor and critic for literary magazines, gaining a reputation for brilliance and brutality. His reviews were sharp, often savage, and unapologetically honest. He made enemies easily, but his mind was undeniable. At a time when American literature was still trying to define itself, Poe demanded precision, unity, and emotional impact. In 1836, Poe married his cousin, Virginia Clemm, who was just 13 years old. By modern standards, the marriage is deeply unsettling, but historical accounts suggest their relationship was affectionate rather than predatory. Virginia became Poe's emotional anchor, gentle, musical, and fragile. They lived in extreme poverty, often moving from city to city, relying on unstable editorial work. Then came the breakthrough. In 1845, Poe published The Raven. Overnight, he became famous. The Raven's hypnotic rhythm, haunting refrain, and exploration of grief captured the public imagination. Nevermore entered the American vocabulary. Poe became a literary celebrity, but not a wealthy one. Copyright laws were weak, and fame did not translate into financial stability. Despite his success, Poe's life grew darker. Virginia fell ill with tuberculosis, the same disease that had killed his mother. For 5 agonizing years, Poe watched her fade. During this time, he produced some of his most powerful works, stories like The Telltale Heart, The Black Cat, The Fall of the House of Usher, and The Mask of the Red Death. These were not just horror stories, they were psychological dissections of guilt, obsession, decay, and the terror of the mind turning inward. In 1847, Virginia died at just 24 years old. Poe was shattered. Friends described him as emotionally unmoored, alternating between despair and manic energy. His drinking worsened, though modern scholars debate how severe his alcoholism truly was. What is clear is that Poe was deeply unstable, grieving, and increasingly isolated. Yet even in his final years, Poe continued to innovate. He's credited as the inventor of the modern detective story, introducing the character Auguste Dupin, a direct ancestor of Sherlock Holmes. He pioneered science fiction with tales that blended imagination and emerging scientific ideas. He developed a theory of composition that emphasized structure, intention, and emotional effect, ideas that still influence writers today. Then came the mystery that would define his death. In October 1849, Poe was found delirious on the streets of Baltimore, wearing clothes that were not his own. He was taken to a hospital, where he drifted in and out of consciousness. He never explained what had happened. 4 days later, on October 7, 1849, Edgar Allan Poe died at the age of 40. His final words were reportedly, "Lord, help my poor soul." The cause of his death remains unknown. Theories range from alcohol poisoning to illness, rabies, brain disease, or even political kidnapping, a practice known as cooping, where victims were forced to vote repeatedly in elections. No definitive answer exists. Poe's life ended as strangely as many of his stories. After his death, Poe's reputation nearly collapsed. A rival, Rufus Wilmot Griswold, wrote a vicious obituary, portraying Poe as mad, immoral, and dangerous. For years, this false image dominated public perception. Ironically, it also fed the legend. Today, Edgar Allan Poe is recognized as one of the most influential writers in world literature. He shaped horror, mystery, and psychological fiction. His works speak to the fragile boundary between reason and madness, love and loss, life and death. Poe once wrote that all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. His own life feels like one, tragic, intense, and unfinished. Yet through his words, he achieved the immortality he never found in life. Edgar Allan Poe died believing himself a failure. History would prove him wrong.